After weeks and weeks of broken promises and ceasefire violations, Israel has renewed fighting in Gaza. Shalom, my name is Shani Ferguson from Jerusalem. This morning, about half the country woke up about 4 a.m. to the sounds of sirens again coming care of the Houthim in Yemen. Of course, the Houthim have been supporting Gaza in this fight since the beginning of the war on October 7th. They haven't really donated anything towards Gaza except for these missiles and drones that they've been firing, but for them, apparently that's like their skin in the game. The United States has not been so excited about the way the Houthim are acting because they have also fired on U.S. targets, and so they have been firing in response to what has been happening in Yemen. In the meantime, the fighting in Gaza has renewed. Apparently, hundreds of people have been killed, including the latest top Hamas leader and some of his underlings. Hamas, in response, has now offered again an option to release the hostages, which could have really resolved this issue about a year and a half ago. In the meantime, the fighting will continue in Gaza because this is what they've been doing for weeks and weeks and weeks, which is to say, hey, we'll have a deal, almost a deal, and then while they're having those conversations, they're flying weapons over the border from Egypt using drones. And so their conversation, as if like, no, we really want to work this out, is just buying time for them to retrain all the new recruits that they have. And again, we discussed the fact that there's a lot of new recruits for Hamas, which in a sense makes sense because if you're a part of Hamas in Gaza, you will have access to food, you will be able to go in the tunnels when there's battles going on, and if you're just a civilian, you don't have access to any of those. You have to go and buy the food that Hamas steals from the humanitarian aid trucks that come in, and most Gazans don't have this luxurious lifestyle where they have cash in their pockets to go and buy from Hamas humanitarian aid that was donated from around the world. What makes this entire situation complicated in Israel is that there are internal battles that are political battles that are happening simultaneous. In fact, before October 7th, there was this big clash between the government, the prime minister, and the Knesset, and our judicial system. And the Knesset, essentially our parliament, was trying to pass a law that would not allow the Supreme Court to overrule any laws that they created. And if you know anything about the government in the US, you have the executive branch, which is the president, you have Congress, who can make laws, and of course you have the Supreme Court, which can decide that this law is not constitutional, but the Supreme Court can't create law. So it kind of creates this balance of no one entity has too much power. And in Israel, because they want to pass this law, the Knesset wants to pass this law, that the judicial system cannot override any law that they pass, which is never a good idea in democracy. And that was what Israel was clashing when October 7th happened. And so the understanding when the war broke out was, hey, can we put that on the side? Can we not do that right now? Because our enemies are watching and they're watching us clash and they're seeing our weakness. And so we don't want to be doing that right now. That lasted for a good few months. Unfortunately, the people in the government really felt that it was important to push that. And so without getting into the details of whether I think it's a good idea that they pass this law or not a good idea, it definitely during wartime, when we're trying to focus on getting our hostages back, is not a good time. And the fact that they've been trying to again pass these laws and mess with the judicial system has created a reaction from the people. And so we're back to people protesting on the streets, which is their democratic right to do, blocking roads, which I'm not a fan because people driving on the street are not necessarily your enemy. And so while we are juggling our internal affairs, which again are internal affairs, and people looking from the outside, it's kind of like if you have a house and you have a messy room and someone wants to come and be like, oh, you shouldn't be in this house because you have a messy room. It's like, no, the messy room needs to be cleaned up. That has nothing to do with us being in the house. And in the same sense, Israel fighting for its existence with 7 different fronts right now, potentially 8, is not the same issue as the internal affairs. And in the meantime, really appreciate your prayers because these internal conflicts are things that weaken us and they definitely lower morale. And we really want to focus on shutting out the enemies, giving Gazans the opportunity to leave Gaza if they want to, which, by the way, is, for whatever strange reason, a sticking point for a lot of people who say they really want to help Gaza, and they think it's terrible that they have this open-air prison, but they don't want to let Gazans leave who want to leave. So those are two things you can pray about. Israel's internal political problems, which are their own issue, and the release of the hostages while they are still alive. I believe there's 24 left still alive, 59 there in total, and the freeing of those who want to leave Gaza. Until next time, I'm Shani Ferguson.